All righty, thanks, Mr. Wexler. I appreciate it. Again, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Property Committee, Tuesday, January 17th. So we're going to work from our agenda. Hopefully everybody had a chance to review the agenda. We have 7 items on today. If anybody has any questions before we get started. Okay, so Mr. Henry Goriello is with us from Dewey Engineers. He's going to do a presentation of some of our summer projects for this upcoming summer. The first one I think we're going to look at is the middle school athletic field renovations. So we really looked at this extensively, how much we should or shouldn't do with the potential of the middle school going through some other renovations in the upcoming years. You know, how big of a project should we take on, you know, and how extensive should it be? So the major concerns are the football track, the athletic track that surrounds the football field. The track itself has developed a lot of cracks over the years in the macadam there in the blacktop. So it's beyond its useful life. It's getting to the point where, you know, safety may be a consideration. So that's going to be a big focus. Also, the playing surface on the lower field at the middle school. That's a grass field that really is in bad shape, has a lot of big ruts and holes and everything, holds water. So we're looking to top dress that, reseed it, fertilize it, and water it all summer. So we hope we get it back into some a good playability condition for the fall sports. So we also have the Erdenheim ramp, accessibility ramp in the back of the school that is going to allow us to bring students from the lower parking lot playground area up to the upper one. We run our life safety drills, bringing kids back and forth through there, as well as just everyday accessibility. The Erdenheim principals asked us to incorporate the exterior entrance of the cafeteria into this project as well. So as you'll see in the presentation, I think Dewey Engineers did a nice job designing a ramp in the back area there. So again, we have a high school roof replacement we'll go over. So I think, again, if anybody has any questions, we'll let Henry start.
All right, let's see. Oh, can whoever has control let me share my screen?
Sure thing. Give me just a moment, Henry.
Sure. Thanks, Tom.
Give it a shot now, please.
Yep, I've got it. All righty, can everybody see that?
Yep.
Good morning.
All right.
All
right. So as Craig mentioned, we put together some sketches and some budgets and some scopes of these projects. I just need to say up front at this point, you know, these are rough, so they are order of magnitude budgets. We tried to take into account what's going on in the market these days. But of course, if you all agree to move forward today on these projects, we will get to work on them and, you know, keep you updated on a monthly basis relative to what we're seeing as far as costs, you know, if there are any changes or anything like that. You know, and the scope, you know, as the projects are actually designed. So what we're going to do here real quick is, oh, sorry, there we go. So we're looking at, and this is true of all the projects, the rough scope of work and estimate of probable costs, and then the preliminary project schedule. So what we've done here, let's see, that shouldn't be in the way now. Looking at the scope of work for the middle school. Number one thing is to get in as early as we possibly can. Once bids are received, dress and seed the field hockey field. We would start the work here and push that for fall use. Again, we wouldn't completely replace the lawn or anything like that. We would try to, again, do kind of a top dressing and an overseed to get the most we can out of that in the throughout the summer. And I know Craig has a water wheel out there so that we can keep it watered throughout the summer and hopefully take advantage of the water and the good summer weather to get that ready for fall use. Number two would be to replace the track, and that would include complete milling and removal of the existing asphalt right down to the subgrade. We would then repair that sub base, meaning make sure it's compacted and filled to the proper level, and then put new asphalt in. As part of that, we would also address any curbing over on the, in this picture on the right of the page, there is some curb that is gotten displaced or, is cracked and needs to be replaced. And then a couple of pieces also on the left side of the track in the page here. So there is cost in there to assume that we can replace some of that curbing as well. Number three would be we would extend this sidewalk. Now I have this green line here kind of shown off to the right of the existing sidewalk. And the reason we've done that is to make room for a shot put circle. So what we would do is replace that walk, put a ramp up to the an accessible ramp up to the track in that area so that the entire, whoa, don't know what happened there, sorry. Giving you a preview. There we go. A ramp so that you could have accessibility to the track, that people could make their way over to the bleachers. We would replace the goalposts on the field with new goalposts, the ones that you have there. Although they still work, they're kind of harken back to the 50s style goalposts, the H style goalposts. So we would put new goalposts in, restore the existing concrete bleachers, as opposed to replace them or anything. They're not in terrible shape, but with some concrete repair and maybe a good coating on there, you can get many years of continued use out of that. Back to number 6, install a shot put circle and have the area there. That's a nice area in that lawn up there where you would be able to do that. Keeps it close to the high jump. We would also dress up this entire area where the high jump pit or the high jump paving currently is. You do get some puddling and some ponding there, so we would dress that up and make sure that that was, a nice patch of lawn over in that area, and then install a new long and triple jump run and sand pit at the end. So that's basically the scope of the project.
So real quick, Henry, we did speak with the middle school principals there. They asked for the added shot put area. It's part of their track and field program,
right?
As well as the other track and field improvements there. So they felt that this was a nice improvement to the athletic facility there.
Right. So the I broke it down here. The numbers don't exactly match what was on the scope, but broke it down here to look at the different items that were in the scope that we just reviewed. The most expensive of those, and probably one of the things I should have mentioned, is not only are we replacing the asphalt, it will be a rubberized coating on the track. It will match the color over at the high school, so we'll make sure we get that done. Again, replacing the goalposts, extending the sidewalk, creating a ramp. We put an allowance here to repair and recoat the bleachers. And I have an allowance there because, we haven't had anybody to really come and look at it. So I think that 75,000 will be more than enough to cover what is being done there. Adding the shot put circle and safety netting. miscellaneous grading and reseeding, and then grading and seeding of the field hockey field. That's the high jump area in the field hockey field. So the total estimated construction cost just under $1 million. And then with soft costs for civil engineering, Dewey Engineering's fee, which covers design and construction management. I have a 10% contingency in there, which also includes, on top of the 10% contingency, $5,000 for a survey, just so we can make sure that all of the grades and lines are proper. And then I have a construction contingency of 10% as well. As we get closer to the construction, the design contingency will go away, and then we'll probably want to keep somewhere between 3 and 5% of construction contingency just for unforeseen conditions if we hit them. So the total soft cost of $292, and then the total estimated project costs a little over $1.2 million. So any questions before we move on? No? All right, I'll jump to
I'm
the next
sorry, I was
one.
trying to find the mute button. I didn't.
No problem.
Thank you very much for the overview on this. I know there's a lot more to go, so I'll be quick. The track itself, I had always understood the track to be a different size than a standard competition track. And is there, and maybe this is for Dr. Yannicone, is there any challenge that creates for the ability to actually use it for competitions, or is it regulation?
The track is not a 400-meter track as the high school track is. We did investigate this fall the potential to move it to a 400-meter track. It would significantly impact our ability to maintain the current field hockey and soccer fields and baseball fields. So we had reviewed that at one prior meeting. As a former track coach, I can tell you, as long as you keep turning left, you can run pretty much any distance on a track. It would be ideal if it could be a 400-meter track, but in order to do that, we talked about widening it or turning it, but anything we did reduced the number of total fields at the middle school, and that was just an unacceptable outcome for us.
Yeah,
Does it create any limitations of use in its current size?
Well, in theory, you wouldn't host like a high school level playoff because you don't have enough lanes in the straight.
We would do that at the high school anyway, right?
We do it at the high school anyway, exactly. And so, no, we don't believe that for our middle school program, it's a hindrance to maintain the current configuration and distance. There's no doubt it would be ideal if it could be a 400-meter track, but the offset of the loss of field space at the middle school just isn't worth it.
Okay.
Sure.
I just have a question about the field hockey field. So, I mean, the biggest issue with that has been flooding and water and everything, you know, sinking that under and not being able to be used for play during the seasons that it's needed. Are there any additional things that are being done in terms of, like, I know it says grading and seeding, but water runoff or collection, or I don't know, that will prevent that from being a problem in the future?
No, we've actually already talked to the township. We had the township engineer and the building inspector out to tell them what we were planning on doing, actually on a much bigger project. And really what we would be doing for the field hockey field, as far as actual, runoff or stormwater, it really doesn't change anything as far as where the water is designed to run or supposed to run. It'll actually improve that and make it more like design. There's been, if you can see the contour lines here going left to right, shows that the water is supposed to flow down toward the lower corner of the lot and get picked up in the storm drain there. And what's happened is over the years, kind of the middle of the field, I think, has settled a little bit. You actually have your geothermal well field under that hockey field, and I believe there was just some settlement over the years, which we would be kind of repairing and making it act a little bit more like it was supposed to.
Mhm. Okay. And I'm sorry if I missed it. Did you mention anything about, there's on that far side of the hockey field, not on the track side, but on the opposite side, there's a set of bleachers there too, very small. I don't know if
Right.
they're bleachers, but it's a step. What's the plan for that? I'm sorry if I missed that.
No, we hadn't had any plans for that, but I'm sure we can take a look at
Okay.
it as part of, whatever they're doing to repair here. We'll take a look at it, and if we need to do any minor repairs there, we can put that in as well. I don't think that would be a big burden on the scope or on the budget.
Mhm. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, just to follow up with that too, if we do in fact do a lot of work at that middle school, we would need staging areas, for trailers, material, equipment. So there's a good possibility that that lower field would be impacted by a bigger project. So when we first started looking at all the middle school fields, we were looking at underground drainage, irrigation, sodding, all of these fields as a much larger project. But again, if within a few years we do a major renovation at the middle school, that work that we would undertake this year could possibly be impacted again by staging areas of that larger project. So we took that into consideration. We didn't want to, put the dollars out, invest a lot of money in that lower field, and then just run a bunch of triaxle trucks and backhoes and trailers and whatnot, over the top of it. So we wanted to do something there, but we realized that, let's wait and see what this other part of the project looks like.
Thanks, Craig.
All right, so just a quick look at the preliminary schedule. We would get started, tomorrow. Basically, we dig into the working on the bid documents, hoping to get them done by the end of March. Do the bidding in March, review the bids during the end of March board meeting, and then right after that, early April, get started, as we said, as soon as we possibly can, to get work on that field hockey field, to try to get it ready for the fall, and then move on to the other things during the bulk of the summer. So looking at this one is pretty straightforward. The roof replacement at the high school. Just to show you a quick scope of work, the area number 4 right here is the auditorium. This is the lower house and the upper house. So the area of roof that we're looking at is kind of across the back of that upper house. The area, the long hallway that goes toward the freeze lobby, and then the small crossing hallway there, that comes out from the freeze lobby on the upper level there. So again, I mean, this is very straightforward. We actually did the roof on the auditorium. We would follow the same procedure there. Although we do have a high roof and a low roof situation between number 4 and 3 here, where we may have to do some masonry work to move flashings or weep holes, but we would, look at that as we go. But basically what we're talking about is replacing it with a 2-ply built-up roofing system that matches what we've done on the auditorium, what we did on the new additions, obviously other than the standing seam roof, and, cover that area of the high school roof. This one, again, I think overall is very straightforward relative to budget. It was kind of exactly where we were looking at, or that Craig was looking at several months ago. And with roofing, it's pretty simple. It's based on the square footage of roofing that you're doing. $40 a square foot average, $1.6 million for the roof. Soft costs basically would be our fee. And then we have a design and a construction contingency in there. The construction contingency is a little higher on this one because, just with the volatility of materials these days, especially asphalt, the price going up, we felt that a 10% contingency would be good to cover us for inflation in case something happened. And total soft cost of $320 for an estimated project cost of $1.92. The schedule, again, very similar. We'd start right away on the design. We've actually already done a survey of the roof, so our guys have been up there. They have their photographs and dimensions and everything, so they're kind of ready to get started on that. Again, same thing, we do a pre-bid meeting and do our bidding at the beginning of March, review the bids at the March board meetings, and get to work again as soon as the thaw comes in April, hopefully.
So
Close things out before the end of the summer. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, can I just interrupt with a question? I think this is, I hope this is a good time to do it. And I apologize if
Yeah, no.
About this before and I came in late. The roof replacement project at the high school and the work that's going to be done at the middle school. If I understand the schedule and everything makes sense, if though, are there any contingency plans if work gets, like nobody saw COVID coming either, right? Well, anyway, if there's a delay of some kind, will the planned work impact student engagement or students being at the schools at all? It doesn't sound like it would, but is there any interior work that's going to be done that would have to be accounted for?
No, the only interior work associated with the roofing would be when we do a re-roofing, we ask the roofer to provide all new roof drains. Most of that work is done from the top, but they usually do get a plumbing subcontractor to go in and make the final connections. So they'll be up in the ceiling there, but I mean, it's not days or weeks of work. It's a couple of hours per drain. I don't want to say, I guess it's the one nice thing about roofing, but even during COVID, roofing was they were considered an essential service. So they were one of the few trades that was never shut down. So we don't anticipate it being a problem. So.
And is that true at the middle school as well?
Yeah, well, middle school workers, yeah, that's almost, I think it is 100% outdoor work.
Exterior,
So
okay.
The only thing that a delay may cause there is we're going to have to scramble to find fields to put people on if we can't get the work done.
Okay, but it's not going to affect any student work that goes on in the building?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And actually, I'm sorry, I just wanted to go back to that. Thank you.
Yep.
The fields, for the timeline for the fields.
Yeah.
Will that affect this spring schedule for fields? Because I think there is lacrosse in the spring and some other things.
Yeah, it will. We would have to find another place for field hockey in the spring, especially if we're going to get and try to dress that field in the early spring. So would displace anybody on, I can get back there. On this field hockey field, we'd have to, they would be displaced in the spring.
Right. So Dr. Tarateski, Karen Brady, our middle school athletic director, has worked with Mr. Thorne. And because we now will have the additional multi-purpose field at Church Road, we are able to accommodate all of our athletic programs with the work in place. So that has all been factored into decision-making about how large of a scope of work we should have at the middle school on the main campus relative to what's available to us on the new campus.
Okay, thanks.
And then, this spring shouldn't be impacted, but in the fall, and Miss Brady did come up with a contingency plan to use the Church Road fields again, and specifically for field hockey. Field hockey is a fall sport. So
Okay,
this project at the middle school wouldn't start until the last day, as school ends. That's why Henry put in there, pending snow days is, we want to start on the 19th, but if we have snow days for whatever reason, it would be pushed out a little bit. But the spring sports this year should not be impacted at all.
okay, thanks.
All right, so I will jump into the ramp at Erdenheim Elementary. So basically what we're looking at here is constructing a new ADA compliant ramp. So, and just to let everybody know, so for every foot of rise, you need 12 feet of run. So what? I don't know why, man, this thing has a mind of its own today. So for every foot of rise, you need 12 feet of run. So we're roughly about 15-foot difference from the lower level to the upper level. And that changes, of course, because the parking lot in the back of Erdenheim actually slopes up. So there's actually a higher difference between the top of the parking lot and the playground than there is from the playground and as you move down the parking lot by a couple of feet. So again, which is all important because again, every foot that you go up, you need another 12 feet of ramp. There's also a regulation that says that for every 30 feet of ramp, you need a landing. So that's why you see these little squares in here, because those are the ramp landings or right. So I guess I was explaining the ramp. I don't know how much you heard, but again, the ramp for every foot of rise, you need 12 feet of run. We've got about 15 foot of difference here. So we're looking at, I think it's between 240 and 280 feet of ramp with the rest points, which are required to be every 30 feet. The ramp ties into a small kind of patio area outside the cafeteria exit. There is doors exiting the cafeteria out onto this platform. We would do a small, in this case, sidewalk. You wouldn't be required to have railings or anything there. No, I shouldn't say that. You may be required to have railings, but I think the slope is low enough that you wouldn't be required. We are looking at, cutting the curb and sidewalk here to make the curb go down a ramp across and then up on the other side. And that would allow this ramp to tie directly into the parking lot rather than going up and down on either side of the sidewalk. So it'd basically be a curb cut there to accept that ramp. We would dress up the lawn and landscape around the ramp when it was completed. And then the one other thing we would need to do is tie in a sidewalk across the lower level of in this case, I guess, upper end of the play area, so that people exiting the school building would have access to that as well. So one of the reasons for this ramp is to muster everybody in the upper parking lot in the case of a fire. So students exiting the building out of the end of the building, out of the side of the building would all have access to that ramp. I did put a caution in here. AHJ stands for authorities having jurisdiction. So if the local code official decides that we need a new set of stairs here, and the reason he would decide that is every 14 steps, you're required to have a landing on a set of stairs. The stair is non-compliant. We would, of course, make the argument that the stair is grandfathered in. See what they say about that, but there is a long shot, an outside shot that they may say, no, you have to replace those stairs and make those compliant as well. I think that's about it. I went through that pretty quickly, but if there's any questions about what the scope is. So the one thing I should say is that, I took a little artistic license with the way the path is here with the idea that hopefully we can kind of make a meandering, as opposed to a very rigid square ramp going up and down the hill. However, the civil engineer may have something to say about that once he takes a look at, where the ramp is and the grades and everything like that, how many retaining walls we need. And obviously, whatever he may dictate relative to keep the cost down, we would, follow up with him and keep you informed of, what that's actually looking like as we get further into it. So I will jump to the budget. So what we have here is the new ramp. Again, 240 lineal feet, which includes 5 landing, plus 5 landings equals 280 lineal feet of ramp. We have that at about $800 per lineal foot. If you think about that, not terrible. I know it's you probably got between $250 and $300 a foot for railings. You're gonna have retaining walls, and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like it's just pouring a sidewalk on the hill there. Some additional sidewalk work up in that parking lot area. Again, I kept this cost up here. It's really more of a that, again, if we're not required to have railings there or anything, that'll go down to probably $100 lineal foot. Site work, seed, sod, put everything back. We have an allowance there of $50,000, and then another concrete sidewalk allowance to do any repair or that curb cut. Soft costs, again, a civil engineer's fee, Dewey Engineering's fee, a design contingency, which includes geotechnical allowance. Now, geotechnical allowance a little bit different from a survey. The geotech would come and do some borings into the soil so that we could check the structural capacity of the soil for the retaining walls and the ramp, make sure everything is okay there. And then again, a construction contingency in this case, it's very high. It's about 20%. And the reason is, based on this sketch right now, we're just not sure, what might require, you might need retaining wall along 100% of the wall. You might only need it along 50% of the wall. It really will determine or will be determined once the civil engineer does his initial layout. And again, we'll probably lower that to, about 5% once we actually get ready for construction. So estimated construction cost of the ramp, $319, $139 in soft costs for a total project estimated cost of just over $450,000. And then we have, if we were required to remove and replace the stair, I just have an add here of $175,000. Again, probably a little bit conservative, but I wanted to make sure it was there just so that, nobody got nervous about it. And again, the reason for that, you think it's just a set of concrete stairs, but again, keep in mind, railings themselves are between $250 and $300 a lineal foot. So, so that's about it. Any questions about the ramp? No, I'm not hearing this. Can you folks still hear me?
Yeah, Henry,
Oh,
you're
okay.
fine. I think
Oh,
you can
good.
move on
Okay,
to
all
the
right.
next step.
All right. Got nervous there.
No, it's okay.
And then again, the jump into schedule, it's pretty much the same schedule as the other projects. Again, what we would probably do, let me see if I can minimize this. There we go. Same schedule. We try to get approvals in March and start moving forward as soon as we can to get the project done this current summer. So that's our goal on all of it. And we'd actually bid them all together, not as one project. The bidding dates would all be together so that we're putting them out to bid doing our pre-construction meetings probably on the same day on the different sites. And then when we receive bids, again, we'll probably receive them at 3 different times during the same day.
Thank you, Henry.
Sure.
Can I, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Can I just note something, I guess, for the record?
Absolutely.
Of the meeting. I understand with all of these, and please correct me if I'm misunderstanding this, but I understand with all these projects essentially taking place over the summer, it's going to cause disruption to a greater or lesser extent on pretty much most, if not all, of the school campuses for the entire duration of the summer. If I read your schedule correctly, you're going to start the last day of the school year and you're projected to finish it essentially late August. I understand the
Correct.
dates change a little bit. That said, understanding for members of the community, they're going to be without access to certainly most of the middle school fields, a large chunk of Erdenheim, if folks use that playground and whatever. And obviously that's going to have some impact on use of the high school facilities. That said, on balance, I think this is a good idea. All of this work has to be done. Let's do it over the summer where there's the least disruption possible. But I understand and I recognize, and I feel like I should say it, that there is going to be some community disruption. I just think on balance, this is worth it.
No, I appreciate you saying that, Mr. Needleman. There's no doubt that anytime there's work done, there will be impact. We have met as an administrative team to talk about the summer programming that traditionally occurs in our buildings. And we do believe we can continue to accommodate any of our existing summer programming across the 4 campuses. As you know, in particular with the high school roof, we really do not anticipate much disruption at all, as we didn't have much disruption at the middle school last year while we did the roof. It's a lot of work for Mr. Thorne to have multiple projects going at the same time. But as you say, we do believe that these are all important next steps in moving forward as a district. So we want to continue to strengthen the campus, make sure we're safe. And in the case of Erdenheim, correct an issue we have with full accessibility for all members of the community. All right, so Henry, I think we're okay. No one has any further questions for Henry? I want to let you go.
Great. Okay. So just
Thank
2 quick pitches before I leave. One, I'm going to send probably later today our proposals over. We could get those. I mean, again, if the decision of the board to move forward, if we get those signed and returned, we'll get to work right away. As we said, we've already kind of done a lot of legwork. So that's number 1. Number 2 is, I know you're talking and again, you probably have a lot more talk because it's a much bigger project is the work at the middle school. But I would say and I think you were all very happy with what Schrader Group did on your other campuses and buildings, that, the earlier you get them re-involved in, looking at the middle school and showing you concepts and that kind of thing, because you're probably looking at least a 2-year timeline before you would start any work there. So again, just to kind of let you know that, like I said, it's a minimum of 2 years before you would be able to start anything there. But again, if you, let me know what your intentions are there, I can reach out to David Schrader, get him back involved and, bring him to see everyone at one of the facilities meetings and, talk about moving that forward. But again, that's your call. Just let me know.
Thanks, Henry.
All
We're
right.
starting to give a preview of that 4th agenda item. We'll get there in a few
okay.
minutes. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good. Talk to you soon. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Mr. Thorne, you want to head over to the 2nd agenda item?
I have a quick question.
Oh, of course.
Janicum, before we go, sorry. Just a reminder, Ms. Green, is everything that we're talking about here in fund balance or budgeted for? And is there a proportion of what is continuing maintenance versus a capital expenditure?
So I think we should get through the agenda first because there's financial impacts on other agenda items. And then I can give you the 30,000 foot overview on our funding discussion. And then just as a heads up, there is a finance committee meeting scheduled on the 16th of February, I believe. That's the date, where we will deep dive into how all of the things that are being presented at property are being funded, and the options that we have. So the funding has been discussed, but I think we should get through the rest of it because there are financial impacts to other agenda items, and then I can answer that question at a very high level, and then the details will be at the finance committee. Does that work?
That works. I have to personally drop, but I will watch the recording and I look forward to the finance committee meeting.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Bedard.
Mr. Dodd. Okay, so I'm looking at the fourth agenda item, the high school pool acoustical sound improvements. I'm not sure if our agenda's changed, what I'm looking at on you guys. Anyway, I think Henry had discussed the larger capital projects. Just another project we're pursuing is the pool acoustical sound improvements. So we're looking to install acoustical treatments in the ceiling, possibly the walls of the natatorium to improve the sound quality there, as well as a new PA system. So I think the PA system, we can do that in-house with tech support. Mr. Wexler is wonderful at sound projects. So that's something else we're looking into as well. So I'm sorry, Dr. Yannicone, did I mess the agenda up or anything?
No,
Okay.
that's fine. You can continue.
Very good, very good. So any questions with that?
So not with the sound quality, but with reference to the pool, I think we observed that there's no sign naming the natatorium anymore. It may have come down when all the construction was done.
It actually did. We do have it, and we'll get it back up. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. I guess we'll talk with the high school administration about where do we put that sign, but we certainly can get it back up.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Okay, all righty. So yeah, we've been monitoring the pool quite frequently, temperature, chlorine, all that good stuff. So we're potentially looking at some other renovations possibly next year or so with ceramic tile work and other pool improvements. But we want to try and improve the sound in the pool for this year. Okay, if there's no other questions there, the transportation facility assessment. Again, we're working with the transportation director on the size of a site and what an actual design of a new facility should look like. So we're still in the works there. We are also still actively searching for available land in the township. So we talk with the township quite regularly about any available sites, what we can do, where we can potentially put a new transportation facility. So that's all in the works. Again, the existing facility, we put the new roof on. They're still working on the gutter system there, and any of the other improvements that came out of the study there, we'll continue to follow up on them as well. We also, under that heading, we did identify a replacement piece of equipment for our bucket truck. The bucket truck framing actually fell apart on our bucket truck we have now. So we did identify a piece of equipment that we can use outside, tree trimming, site lighting replacements, working on the facades of the buildings. So we can actually bring this piece of equipment into the buildings as well, which we didn't have the capability with the actual bucket truck. So we're seeking board approval tonight to purchase that piece of equipment. So that's it for that agenda item. The next one is the district security services vendor. So currently we do have a security provider. What we're doing now is evaluating our current services and the needs of the district moving forward. So the current vendor has had some staffing issues for quite some time now. So we really want to look at our other options there. What other companies provide this service? How can we improve the existing service? So I think in April, May, we're going out with an RFP to solicit some quotes from other security vendors. So, any questions there? Okay. So just an update on the Church Road Athletic Facility. I don't know, hopefully you've all had a chance to go by and take a look. The construction fence came down last week. We're working on punch list items, and the outstanding items left would be line striping in the parking lots, the guardrail on Church Road, some site improvements, adding topsoil, the players' benches, the bleachers for spectators. So all that still in the works. The middle school athletic program, the spring program, starts roughly in the middle of March. So the fields are playable. We can get on them. That's not a problem. So we'll be ready for that. We're also going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony. It'll be Thursday, April 13th in the afternoon, Dr. Yannicone, I think.
Yes.
So hopefully everybody has a chance to attend. Should be a great ceremony. Miss Brady from the middle school is planning that, I guess, along with Dr. Yannicone. So looking forward to that. So it's taken longer than it should have, the fields, but again, we really don't actually need them till March. And you know, I'm pushing the contractors to get things completed. We also need to purchase a shed for the middle school sports equipment, grounds equipment. So we're looking at that right now. The shed should be available by the start of the sporting season.
So for Mr. DeFranco and Dr. Etlin, our remaining board members, Mr. Thorne, through this agenda, wanted to provide an update on some of the campus-wide projects with a specific focus on our summer projects, those larger items. I want to make sure that you're comfortable with our continued work in that area, with the understanding that, as Ms. Green said, she'll be providing a detailed look at the financing of these projects at our upcoming finance meeting. And there was one other agenda item that was added, and that agenda item is an update on the middle school project. And if you have a few more minutes, I know we scheduled 8 to 9. If you have about 10 minutes, I'd appreciate being able to just give you an update there, because we do have a request for your support to go out to RFP on the design. So I'd like to be able to give you a little bit of information beforehand. Is that okay with you?
It's fine with me.
Okay, thank you. So Mr. Thorne, I'm going to share my screen and just review these slides to provide the update. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. So as you know, we've been, one of our district goals is to look at a renovation and addition project to the middle school over the next few years. As Mr. Guariello mentioned, we are intending to complete our work of all 4 buildings over the last decade or so with the middle school project in the next few years. So this is our district vision, future readiness of this middle school space. We'd like to make sure that we have enhanced flexibility, that we can continue to grow our programming, to enhance our existing programming, and even to be prepared from a flexibility standpoint for unanticipated programs that may come down the road. Right now, artificial intelligence, AR, VR, there are a lot of ways in which educational programs are growing at the university level, and typically we see a ripple effect at the post-secondary and secondary level as we move forward. We also want to continue to work on accessibility for all. So universal design in the facility, as you saw with the Erdenheim ramp project that we've proposed this morning, is one of our team goals that will continue to maintain accessibility and enhance that. And we have some areas in the middle school where we absolutely want to make improvements towards that end. We want to continue our attention and our commitment to the middle school programs and needs. You may recall last summer when we met as a board, we talked about the importance of improving the middle school project and campus. So this summer we have some athletic field improvements coming. We are finishing the new athletic fields right now. We've been working on branding. painting and signage and new furniture, the banners in the parking lots, paving of the lots, and new sidewalks. So we've been working to improve the overall campus feel. We've also lowered class size by adding 7 additional professional positions and improved the supervision at the middle school with our 3rd administrator in Ms. Brady. And then we also have been working to increase extracurricular programming. From a financial standpoint, we're looking at 3 ways of funding these improvements. We have increased the building budget for recurring expenses at the middle school. We have our capital funds for some smaller projects. And then we also will be discussing at our finance committee meeting a multi-year bond for larger renovations in addition to the middle school structure. From an instructional standpoint, the middle school team has been looking at tighter teaming. Currently, we do not have a true team concept at the middle school. And with class sizes of roughly 200, we're looking to create 2 teams at each grade level of roughly 100 students and having 4 of the same teachers for those 100 students. Also looking to increase the timing for science and social studies so that we would be able to offer those courses on a daily basis rather than an every other day basis. This would adjust the total time of instruction in our academic classes, and it would also maintain essentially the time in our special areas. So the programming needs that we're looking at, and this is an aerial view of the middle school campus, we're looking to have increased space for teaming in our classrooms. We're looking to add a clinical suite, which I'll speak to in a moment. Adding performance space of an auditorium. As you know, we don't currently have one, and a large group instructional room that could also be utilized as a board meeting room. We want to reconfigure our music rooms and add some small versatile meeting spaces, and then reorganize our physical education and health area because right now we don't have a health classroom. So we'd like to be able to add that as well. What you're looking at in the aerial view are the available spaces for additions. So this area here where you see the blue lines on the roof, that is over the auditorium and cafeteria. So we could add an addition to the left of that auditorium space or to the west of that gymnasium space and cafeteria space for an auditorium or other classrooms that would be adjacent to the Route 309 area. We could also extend out beyond the cafeteria where we currently have our arrival loop. That area would be adjacent to the library, which is this area here. And then we could also put an addition on adjacent to the academic wing in front of our current main entrance, and a small extension of the academic wing. This is the 3-story 6th, 7th, 8th grade academic wing. We do not anticipate all of these areas being utilized for an addition. These are simply the areas where we could extend the building envelope, and that'll be part of the design phase. As far as the project is concerned, you know this is one of our district goals. And so I want you to know that we've been working this fall on the borrowing capacity. That has been reviewed with Ms. Green. The facility needs and capacity and costs have been reviewed with Mr. Thorne. We have reviewed educational goals with Dr. Johnston and Mr. Fuller. And then we've also elicited feedback on this preliminary discussion by our middle school leadership team, which is our department chairpersons across the middle school. And we also met last week with our student advisory team. Dr. Johnston and Mr. Fuller and I presented this information and got some feedback from our students as well. We have had site visits to 3 middle schools. Cedarbrook Middle School was an addition project in the Cheltenham School District. Sandy Run, as you may know, just opened in September in Upper Dublin, and Black Rock Middle School just opened in September in the Lower Merion School District. I have also made personal site visits as part of my Tri-County Superintendent's Council to Avon Grove High School, Upper Merion High School, and Abington High School. Avon Grove and Upper Merion are brand new, and Abington did an addition project. And so we've been able to look at a lot of the current design features and elements that are being utilized by regional design experts and by our local school districts. So I'm just going to show you a few pictures. Left to right, these are the entrances at Cedarbrook, Sandy Run, and Black Rock. And so we've been able to look at the use of light, high ceilings, and a lot of glass we're seeing in areas, as well as you can see in Black Rock on the far right, the use of flexible furniture, similar to what we've been adding at the high school in the last month. We've also talked about classrooms where teams can work together. So we'd like furniture that can be flexible in that you can work individually or in smaller, larger groups. We also want that flexible furniture to be accessible. One of the conversations we had with the middle schoolers was that a lot of our left-handed students would really appreciate some more accessibility to the furniture that we have. We also have seen where in many of these new buildings, the counseling suite, as you can see on the left, this is Cedarbrook, and on the right is Upper Marion High School. The movement of all of the counseling and clinical team members to one suite. So school psychologists, social workers, counselors, and outside therapists being able to collaborate and work with students in a large center. In speaking with our students last week, one of the assets they found to a counseling center as compared to individual offices is that if their counselor was unavailable, they might find someone else with whom they could speak at a time of need. And in addition, some of the students mentioned that sometimes they're not sure what they need. So maybe they need a psychologist or a social worker when in fact they were thinking they needed their counselor. So a clinical suite would be one of the aspects we'd be looking into in this project. We also talked about versatile meeting space, small group areas where students or staff could meet, or where family meetings could occur. And so having some areas of the building that had the opportunity for privacy for students and for staff and for families would be an additional asset to the new building. We recognize we don't have an auditorium at the middle school. These are some of the auditoriums we were able to observe. The far left, two stacked photos are photos from Cedarbrook Middle School, so a traditional auditorium that would be able to seat all the students, so roughly 600 students. In the center was an interesting option at Black Rock Middle School, where you can see these red chairs, and then you see a stack that looks like a bleacher stack. At Black Rock, they have flexible auditorium seating, where you can pull the auditorium seating out, or you can collapse it to create, as you see on the lower photo there, you can create other types of seating or meeting space. This was an interesting concept that we hadn't considered. And then on the far right, you have two examples in Sandy Run of their auditorium and also of a large group instruction room that could meet the needs of a full team of perhaps 100 students. So we've looked at some options there for auditorium and large group seating. We've also looked at music spaces across the region. There we have things like lockers in some of the music rooms. In the this bottom right corner photo, you can see they have guitars that are actually attached to the wall that you can pull off. So they have like clips for some of their equipment to take it off the floor and make some room there. And then obviously there's digital technology as well. We also looked at health spaces. These are health spaces in some of the area middle schools where you can have activities like yoga classes or fitness opportunities. Cedarbrook is on the far left there, Sandy Run in the middle. And to the far right, it's difficult to see here, but this is Upper Marion High School's new gymnasium. And in the rear corner, they have the fitness center adjacent to that gymnasium, which is a nice opportunity for teams as well as for health and physical education classes. And then we also looked at the cafeteria. So these are all of the cafeterias that we saw. We know right now from Mr. Thorne that our existing middle school cafeteria is a little tight with regard to food preparation, as well as the movement of students. And so we like the idea of adding a little bit more of a food court environment in our cafeteria space. And then finally, flexible collaborative furniture would be at the end of the project, as I mentioned at the beginning. So we would also be looking at all new furniture for the middle school. So next steps for us in February, we'd like, if you're on board, to go out to RFP for architect and design services. While we have utilized Schrader Group for Enfield Elementary, and we've been very happy with them, we do believe it would be most responsible of us to go out to a request for proposal for architect services and design using this information that I've shared with you this morning. We also have a finance meeting discussion on the borrowing plan coming up on February 16th. And we have an academic affairs meeting to discuss the educational goals of the middle school project. And so one of the agenda items for academic affairs coming up on February 13th and 6th would be a discussion of this middle school project. So at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions, take any feedback, and just ask for your support in going out to RFP for the architect and design services.
Dr. Yannicone, for the upcoming academic affairs meeting, will the whole idea of the purpose and rationale for teaming be discussed in detail?
It certainly can and will be, yes.
Okay,
Mr. Fuller will join us at that meeting.
Wonderful.
So that he can really talk about his vision for the educational program.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. DeFranco?
Yeah, thank you for sharing all of this. This sounds like quite a large undertaking, which I guess is not surprising considering everything that's been done at the other buildings recently, and the fact that we need to do something with the middle school. And obviously it's not a surprise since you've been alluding to this. So what do you need from us now? I mean, I know at this point, there's only two of us on the meeting at this point. Is that problematic in any way?
Well, the committee is 4, so 2 is considered a quorum.
Okay.
That said, I think, Mr. DeFranco, tonight you're going to provide a summary of this meeting.
Yep.
And so to share that summary, we do not need a formal board vote this evening on the architect services.
Okay.
We just need to know that you feel we're headed in the right direction.
Okay.
The board as a whole would need to commit ultimately to a financing plan, but that'll come forward out of the finance committee meeting.
Right.
And then also the board would need to commit to an educational plan, and that'll come out of academic affairs. So for the property committee meeting, what I'd like to know is that you feel comfortable with the work that's been done, the preliminary work that's been done, and that you feel comfortable with us eliciting proposals from regional architects. And then the board would have a much larger discussion about the extent of the project, what we can afford, what we want to do, and what we can get done in reasonable time at the middle school. So the scope of the work will come in the future.
Understood. Understood.
I wanted
Okay.
to make sure that you all had a sense of some of the things that we were considering and thinking about as we visit other schools and consider how we could enhance the middle school.
Excellent. All right. That sounds good.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move forward with an RFP.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Okay.
sounds like a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And Ms. Green, you know, maybe you can speak to what that commitment entails.
Sure. At this point, going out to RFP for architect services will provide an opportunity to have different architects obviously bid on the project and provide some kind of, like, again, I'm using this term, 30,000-foot overview of the ideas that were presented here and the work that's been done. So it's not starting the clock on the project. This is just soliciting to get architects. And again, as we move through this process, getting this piece of it until we commit to going out to bid on actual construction and everything else. You know, that's when the project really rolls. And you heard Henry say it takes about 2 years to design. So just getting an architect doesn't commit us to the project. It puts us in a place of starting the discussion so we can get concept designs. Again, Dr. Yannicone did a great job talking about the high level piece of what we talked about with funding. I have been working with PFM, Jamie Doyle, on a financing plan, being considerate of all the projects that we're talking about. Those were some big ticket items that we discussed earlier outside of the middle school renovations. So we'll get into the, you know, to the details at the finance committee meeting, but we do have some financing plans, and that'll be presented to the finance committee. But I feel comfortable saying let's move forward into this phase of it, knowing the scope of where our borrowing capacity is, what flexibility we have through our current financial strength in our district. So I think, does that answer the question or give a good preview of, at least for the financing piece, knowing that we're not going into this kind of guns a-blazing and we don't have a plan. There is a plan in place, and we're not committing to anything that'll put us in a position that we have to commit to X number of borrowings over X number of years. That discussion will come at finance committee.
All right, so there will be a need at that time, but to get things started right now, we're not like making a major financial commitment, is what I'm understanding.
No, you're not making a commitment like you did for the K2 building to
Right.
start the project rolling and to have a multi-year borrowing and again, because we don't know what areas we're talking about, Dr. Yannicone provided the blueprint of the areas. We have no idea of how much the project will cost. I'm guesstimating based upon just some high level discussions with Jamie Doyle. So she's going to give us numbers on where we feel comfortable enough going with these projects. Definitely for the projects that got presented, we will be doing a borrowing for that regardless. We do not have the capacity in capital reserve. At this point, I don't feel the recommendation should be to take it out of fund balance at this point. So the high school roof, the middle school renovations, and the Erdenheim ramp will be done with the first set of borrowings for the upcoming year, but that'll be discussed at finance. So again, we have a multifaceted way to address the financing piece that'll put the district in the best and the strongest financial position moving forward.
Okay.
All right, so at this time, Mr. Thorne, if you could just summarize, we have one board motion for this evening coming out of the committee. And that is the purchase of the bucket truck, which we had discussed at our previous meeting.
Correct.
And then other than that, is just the go ahead to go out to RFP on design elements of the middle school renovation addition. Everything else that we discussed today were updates. And I know, Mr. DeFranco, you're going to do our presentation tonight or the summary tonight. Do you have any questions about any of these agenda items that we can clarify for you before this evening?
Not at this point. Is it possible to get a copy of the slides?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I'll get the meeting minutes out shortly after the meeting for you, Mr. DeFranco.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr.
Yannicone, I just want to point out too that we would be moving forward with RFPs for the 3 summer projects that got presented by Henry. Doesn't require board action, but RFPs would be the specs would be drawn and the RFPs would be put out. Obviously, no final decision is going to be made until we get the bids. We obviously have a budget for it. So if bids came in way over, we would have to regroup and have that discussion on moving forward with projects.
Okay.
Okay. I don't believe we have any community members in attendance. Mr. Wexler, you can confirm that for me?
That is correct, Dr. Yannicone.
All right, so at this time, we'll adjourn. Okay, and I really appreciate you staying with us those extra minutes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
See